Hey y'all, so today is Global Gossip on the Go because I'm a busy mom of two and I am just sitting in my car for the next 30 minutes. So I figured I would just make this quick video and hope I can answer a few questions and give you some opinions and some facts. So I have had, as of recent, a lot of questions about the Equality Act. And there's a lot of things that are still, to me, a little cloudy in it and don't really make much sense because they passed an Equality Act back, or added to the original Equality Act, which was in 1964, which had to do with race. They passed an Equality Act in 2019, basically, that had more to do with the LGBT community and discrimination and all that. So this Equality Act, why it's concerning to me, where I wasn't, the others, I mean, look, when you become an adult, you do what you want, you be who you are, you be happy, that's your choice. This bothers me because this directly affects children, as well as possibly can get kind of murky with religious, places and churches and so forth and so on. So I'm just going to give you a few facts. So the original bill, the original Equality Act was in 1964, and it had to do with the differences of race. So that was the main thing. They were telling you cannot discriminate against a person that doesn't look like you, no matter what their background is as far as nationality. You cannot discriminate them based off the color of their skin. That was 100% needed. And it's sad that it was in 1964, but I digress. Progress. So this Equality Act is different because race is skin deep, literally, like skin deep. Past that, we're all biologically human beings, either male or female. This Equality Act, and a lot to do with the transgender community, to me gets a little murky because you're basing this off of, it seems to be like a trickle effect. Like it starts with one thing and then it's going to the next thing and then the next thing. And it just seems like we fought so hard for women's rights, and now if a man says he wants to be a woman, he can, okay? But then that man then goes and becomes a UFC fighter, and he's biologically a man, but he had elective surgeries to become a woman and took hormones. Even that person is still biologically made to be stronger and faster and hit harder than the woman that he's going up against, that is just a female, biological 100% female. So you see what I'm saying? Like, it can get murky. School sports, I've seen these all over the news, cases of like, oh, first transgender to win the women's state track and field or whatever. Well, guys, we have two sports, men's and women's, because we're biologically created differently. We just are. It's science. It's not feelings. It's facts. It's just science. I mean, I don't care if you're a man and you like to wear women's clothes. It doesn't bother me. I don't care if you are a woman who is in love with another woman or a man who's in love with another man. I don't care about that. I am more concerned about this stuff with the children, and as being a parent, how it can affect my rights as a parent and my kids and their future. So, there has been, so I tried to look up for transgender, like a doctor, okay? It's not, I'm trying to be really careful about how I say this because I don't want to sound like a hater, because I'm really not like that, but I'm just trying to give y'all factual information. So transgender is actually called gender dysmorphia, and it is recognized under DSM-4 and DSM-5 as a mental disorder. Okay, that's the American Psychological Association. So where you would go to an orthopedist for your, broken ankle or whatever, for this, you go to a psychologist because it is considered a mental disorder. Now, with that being said, I don't think that, I feel like it's a lumping of a category. So like, they can say they identify as a woman, but they're really a man. But that doesn't make them not a man. They are still biologically a man. If they dug him up in 100 years and tested his DNA and his bones based off his bone structure and DNA, he would be biologically a man. So it is considered a mental disorder, gender dysphoria. Sorry, y'all, my phone literally jumped off the window. So there's just significant differences between a man and a woman. Physically, mentally, we're made different. That's how it was supposed to be. So, I mean, I know there have been like some beauty pageants, and you have had a fully transitioned, was born a man but now lives their life as a woman, and one I can't remember which pageant it was off the top of my head, and I didn't write it down, of course, and they've won, and you would never know. Like, that's not the whole that's not the point of this. Like, the point of this is like, so they classify it as a mental disorder, right? Then you have instances where this will now politicize medicine, because there have been lawsuits already against Catholic hospitals that have refused to do surgeries on minors, or perfectly healthy human women. They have refused to do body dysmorphia surgeries because they're Catholic hospitals, and it is against their policies and religious beliefs, which, no shit, okay? Like, when people jumped all over Truett Cathy that time, when he asked them about, same-sex marriage, of course he's going to say he doesn't agree with that. He's an extremely religious, godly man, and he doesn't believe in that. It doesn't mean that he isn't a sinner. It is what it is. Like, we all sin, just our sin looks different. So that's that, my opinion on that. So by being a part of the LGBT community, I feel like you are saying you are more attracted to a certain sex, okay? But then transgender takes that and says that they identify as a different sex. They're, to me, just completely different. There have been cases in Ohio where in Hamilton County, they removed a minor from her parents because her parents, she come to her parents and told her parents, I guess, she wanted to live her life as a male. And they tried to get her into counseling, which I'm kind of shocked at this, but they took her away and compared it to if a child had cancer and they were refusing them medical service, because her parents would not let her, at her age, I believe it was 15, go and have her breast removed and start transitioning, taking male hormones. And I will also say this, Sweden, which everyone loves to talk about how Swedish medicine is the best and how in Sweden their hospitals and everything is so wonderful. Their study shows that 80 to 95% of teens that have body dysmorphia or gender dysmorphia, by the time they pass puberty, they are 19% more likely to commit suicide if they transition. If they don't transition, they're a lot less likely. I mean, how does that make you feel? Like, it's a little crazy. So, I guess the main point is when they're talking about this Equality Act, where people are getting so like, what? Is you're either biologically a man or a woman. Gender dysmorphia is gender identity. You're picking. Okay, now, if a Catholic hospital refuses to do these surgeries because it's against their religious beliefs, which happened in Washington, and they settled out of court in Washington State, I believe, to perform a double mastectomy on a gender dysphoric 16-year-old girl. Okay, let me tell you something. At 16 years old, like, you don't even know what your life is even going to be about at 16 years old, let alone at some of these things are saying 4, and introducing hormones at hormone blockers at 9, and cross transition at 14, surgery 16 to 18. Like, what? That just sounds crazy to me. And the fact that in Ohio, they took a child away from their parents because the parents decided to get counseling instead of letting her have the surgery, when this is classified as a mental illness, it's just really gray to me. Like, really fishy. It just feels like there's a lot of issues. Now, as far as the discrimination goes, there was actually a case in Clayton County, Georgia, went to the Supreme Court, and it was called Bostick versus Clayton County. And it was where a county employee was supposed fired for joining a I don't even know what they called it. It was just an LGBTQ or softball league or something like that. I think his was essentially thrown out, but then there was more HR and GR also filed under that same thing, and they were filing with this Civil Rights Act of 1964. That's what they were using as their defense. And this person, Amy Stevens, she was hired as a man at a funeral home, and then told them after she was hired that she was going to live her life as a woman. Now, Georgia's I don't know what they call it, right to hire, right to fire state. Like, you don't have to have a reason to fire someone. Now, you can't just be like, I'm firing you because of blah, blah, blah. But if they hired her at a funeral home as a man, and that's what they needed, was a man to fill that position, and then she changed on them, like, to me, and that one continued on, and I don't know the legalities of it because I'm not a lawyer or a judge, but like, that to me sounds odd, because you presented yourself one way to get the job and then you flipped. Just like at Delta, to be a flight attendant, they're going to ask you if you have tattoos. And if you lie about it and they find them and they see them when you go through your training, guess what? They can fire you. So you can't do that. I would say don't do that. That's bad. If you're going to live your life like that, live your life like that. I have a problem more so when it comes to the kids at high schools and all that. Like, and I feel bad because it's a mental, I believe fully in my heart, just like it says on here, that transgender is a genetic gender dysphoria. Why can't I say that word? Gender dysphobic. Gender dysphoria. Jeez. Because it's categorized as a mental illness, that to me leaves this weird gap, because if you're a boy, biologically a boy, but you do whatever and live your life as a girl, but you have PE and you're gonna go in the girls' locker room, like, I don't think that's right, but I feel like with every choice you're gonna have a consequence. So like, that is his choice to do that and live his life that way. What's his consequence gonna be? Like, there's a consequence for every action you're doing. I'm not saying Nick, he's doing something bad, don't get it twisted, but like, there's a consequence for every action. And if that's like, the consequence might be that the girl who is super uncomfortable, you know, complains to the school or school board or whatever if something were said or done or shown, or if they go into the boys' locker room and they get, you know, picked on or bullied. Like, where I understand to an extent, but that it's so gray. Like, to me, it's so gray. It's so gray. I don't think that those things and those decisions should be made until they are adults. Like, no. There's a reason you can't get a tattoo until you're 18, because it's permanent. If you are, it is considered a mental illness, so they're trying to get therapies and that kind of stuff paid for, I guess, through insurances, and I guess that's going to be part of this, and I feel like that's where they're politicizing medicine. But, you know, our mental illness is lacking. We're trying to play catch up with that already, so that's just adding to it. But if it's something that you do electively, like, I wanted bigger boobs, so I bought some. I'm still a woman. I was born a woman. I'll always be a woman. No matter what, that scientifically does not change. If my husband decided he wanted boobs and he went and got boobs, he would still be a man with a wiener and boobs. See what I'm saying? Just gets real weird and icky. Like, I don't know there's no norm. Like, that's not a discrimination thing. That's a scientific fact. And for the record, Marjorie Taylor Greene, everyone's trying to, you know, jump on her bones for posting the sticker about her office, that it's a scientific fact. A man, and there's two genders, male and female, and she did her hands. She was answering back by the Democratic representative who has a transgender child, and their offices are across from each other, and that said representative stuck the transgender flag in her little holder thing right outside her office, and her hand's right at Marjorie Taylor's door, so she answered. Look, for every action, there's a reaction. For every action, there's a consequence. Like, you cannot come down on one and not the other. So, I mean, I don't want, if my child were to come to me with something like that, I wouldn't want her to have the ability to go above my head and change her gender before she's an adult, and have her taken away from me, because I'm trying to treat her gender dysphobic mental disability, which is exactly what it is classified as. I mean, just because you're a human and you're born, but maybe you're only born with one leg, that doesn't mean that we should change the definition of a human, because a human was born with a disability, they're still a human. They're still a male or a female with a disability. If you're transgender, you're still biologically a male or biologically a female with a mental disability. That is how it is seen by the American Psychological Association in DSM-4 and DSM-5. And the reason they did it in 5 also, and this is if your gender dysmorphia causes you depression. If you say that your gender bothers you, then it's said it has depression with it, and that is what the DSM-5 is. I don't know, y'all. I'm just spitting facts. I mean, I guess the difference is one is biology and one is ideology. So one is a scientific fact and one is an identifier as more of a feeling. This is one of my favorite sayings, facts don't make feelings. Like, no, you shouldn't be treated horrible if that's how you want to live your life. Not saying that at all. And if I had a friend that was transgender, I have lots of friends that are in same-sex relationships, but I don't think I've had clients in the past that were. I don't treat anybody any different. It doesn't matter to me if you think that you identify as a roll of paper towels. It is what it is. You're not my child, and I don't have authority over you in any way, shape, or form. So you do what you do. But when it comes to our kids, I am slightly disturbed about this. I just feel like they're making a paper trail of just lawsuit after lawsuit, and then when they blanket this down and you have certain people that go to certain things, and I'm in the wedding industry, and I just went through this huge thing with the knot when I canceled my membership with them, because they kept asking me all these questions. It started off asking me just point blank, was I a black-owned business? And I just kept hitting skip because I wasn't. Didn't think anything about it. And then it went on to asking me my nationality. Was I Hawaiian, Hispanic, Latino, Black, Asian Pacific, LGBTQ, male-owned, female-owned? I'm like, what? Why are all these questions off of a spot I pay for? Like, our talent speaks for itself. And yes, our team is diverse. And I cater to a diverse clientele. So shame on them for trying to put people in boxes. Because I feel like by doing these kind of things where you're saying you're creating equality, I feel like you're dividing. I really do. I feel like it puts a big rain on people's parade.
Here's video of the flag directly across from the office of Republican Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Here's a look at Greene's Twitter page. She had tweeted referring to Newman's 20-year-old transgender daughter as her biological son, but that tweet appears to have now been removed. Hours later, Greene then posted this video of her putting a sign up that reads, "There are two genders, male and female. Trust the science."
I just wanted to make a statement so that she...
And I'm not sure if this was Sweden or someone else, that 80 to 95% of prepubescent teens that have these gender dysmorphia issues, by the time they go through puberty, they feel different about their bodies, and they are not so stressed about their bodies. They're more confident, I guess, in themselves and who they are. Now, I'm not saying that's for everyone, but these activists are pushing for radical protocols for social transitions as young as 4, to puberty blockers at 9, cross hormones at 14, surgeries at 16 and 18. And in Hamilton, Ohio, they did remove the Cincinnati Children's Gender Clinic recommended for this treatment for gender dysmorphia. And the parents wanted to do counseling, which I would think as a parent, with it being a mental disorder, that that would be, okay, well, let's get you in to talk to somebody about this. But some of these Equality Act parts of it have to do with the kids being able to go in without the parent. Now, I understand when there's some situations that might need to happen as far as abuse situations, but because you're choosing to change your gender, I don't feel like is an abusive situation. I mean, I'm not saying that it couldn't result in that if you just had some bad parents, but by the parents trying to get the girl counseling, I don't think that was means to remove her from their home. And they literally used like she had cancer and they weren't treating her for it. Like, completely insane. Also, the fact that when Rand Paul actually asked multiple times, the Rachel Levine, I think is her name, she's transgender and she's trying to be appointed to be in the Biden cabinet. He asked her multiple times about her support for this transition of minors and basically, genital mutilation, sorry. Like, before a certain age, they're choosing, with this being labeled as a mental disorder, and she literally refused to answer his question. I watched it multiple times. She gave him the same blanket just statement like she was on a defense trial. It was very odd. And I don't know. I just think that you can be who you want to be, that's fine, but be who you want to be outside of your childhood. You can be whatever you want in this world. You can identify as whatever you want now. That's what they're basically saying. And if you disagree with it, then that makes you homophobic or whatever, which is not the case at all, especially not in my case. But the transgender rules in this Equality Act are disturbing to me in their comparisons and in their treatment and their methods. I do think that if someone feels like they are the wrong gender, that's clearly a mental issue, as it is labeled by the American Psychological Association, and it should be treated with therapies and all that, but not necessarily therapies that are going to push that agenda. Like, let's get to the root of this versus maybe this person really is, maybe this person really isn't, maybe this person has the dysmorphia, maybe they don't. Let's get to the bottom of it, guys.